I am I am sick. I'm at a loss for words here. I cannot believe that they just left Florida State out of the playoffs, especially to put two one-loss teams ahead of us, an undefeated 13-0 conference championship. It's it's unreal for sure. At this point, I don't even what does playing the games matter? Why do you line up the regular schedule if it just does not matter? Do you have to have a quality loss to get into the playoffs? I'm confused here. I get our starting quarterback got hurt, but that's no reason to leave this team out. They still went on the road against a rival in the weather, by the way, pulled out a win, and then went and played a top 15 team in Louisville in the ACC championship and won, covered the spread, won by 2 scores. I mean, they talked about the way teams have looked over the last couple of weeks. Last week, Alabama needed a prayer to beat 4-8 Auburn. I get it. They beat Georgia yesterday. That's a solid win for them. I'm not taking anything away from that. But there's no reason to have two one-loss teams ahead of undefeated Florida State in the college football playoff. It's a disgrace to the sport, just like Booger McFarland said. It's a travesty to the sport. I don't know why we do this anymore. The committee has lost all credibility. They say pick the four best teams. That's only been an argument like that now because the SEC had a potential to get screwed and left out of the playoffs. A couple years ago, they put Cincinnati in. You mean to tell me Cincinnati was one of the best four teams in the country? Clearly not. This team showed last night and the last couple weeks that they can win regardless of the circumstances. They showed that this defense is at a championship level and our offense can do enough to win. That's what should matter. I'd still stack this team up against any one of those top four teams. I'm not saying we'd win. I'm not saying we'd win pretty. But we'd always have a chance. No question. There would always be a possibility Florida State could beat any of those Washington, Michigan, Alabama, Texas. You can't convince me otherwise. The team has done everything they needed to do, everything they could, everything that they had to do to show that they were deserving of a shot to go to the college football playoff, and they got robbed. And I get the argument is that Jordan Travis went down. I understand that. They were trying to put us out before Jordan Travis got hurt. They were saying that we didn't have the strength of record, the strength of schedule to compete. It just makes literally no sense. I mean, what else does Florida State have to do? And I'll go ahead and say this. This is all a popularity contest for the SEC. I know I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. I don't have much organization to this video, but I got to rant, get it off my chest. If Florida State has an SEC logo on their jersey, they go to the playoff, period. They went 4-0 against the SEC in the last 2 years. They beat LSU by a bigger margin than Alabama did. Last week against Florida, Florida State won by 9. Last week, Georgia Tech, Georgia only wins by 7. I think Alabama beat a bad Auburn team by 3 on a last-second prayer again. They want to talk about the last couple weeks, how it's looked. There it is. The defense has been elite. The defense has been more than enough to get us into the playoffs and compete. The fact that Florida State gets left out here diminishes every ounce of credibility the playoff committee maybe had. I don't think they had much to begin with, and what they might have had, they lost today. This is complete insanity. I am at a loss for words, to be honest with you. You heard it a lot last night. They asked Mike Norvell after the win. They said, "Why does your team deserve a shot?" He had his reasons, and they're all fair, very fair points. This team finds a way to win. This team steps up. This team has the heart, the culture to win in any given scenario, and they've proven that. But also, find me another team in the top 10 that could lose their quarterback. Does Washington beat Oregon the other night without Michael Penix? Does Oregon come close to winning that game without Bo Nix? Does Alabama beat Georgia or beat Auburn last week without Jalen Milroe? Find me another team that's even close to the playoff conversation that could lose their starting quarterback, their star Heisman contender quarterback. Then immediately, they went on to finish that game 59-13, by the way. It ain't like we just had a stalemate on offense ever since Jordan Travis got hurt. We won that game 59-13. And granted, it hasn't looked as pretty since. That was against a bad North Alabama team, but still. Find me a team that could do that without their starting quarterback. Go on the road against a rival in the weather, cover the spread, and then go the very next week to the conference championship game against a top 15 Louisville team, and then cover the spread as well. Win by 10 points. Find me a team that can do that. You can. That's why Florida State should be in. Tate Rodemaker will be back for the playoffs if we got in. It was a concussion. He'd probably, another week, he'll be fine. Then that offense looks at least a little better than it did last night. I think if Tate's in last night, we probably score 27, 30 points. You're going to knock us for our bad offensive look. Michigan won 26-0, but they had less yards offense than we did last night. Why are we the only team getting criticized for a lackluster offense over the last few weeks? It doesn't make any sense to me. That's the same team, too, that got put at the number 1 spot despite their coach being suspended for the last few weeks. Having fired coaches got caught cheating. No mention of that in the show today. None. Texas had a good win yesterday. I'll give them that. They still allowed 3 touchdowns against a team that was ranked worse than Louisville, who Florida State held to 6 points. Would Texas offense score points on us? Yes. Would it be hard to score on Texas defense? Yes. Impossible? Absolutely not. Is it impossible for Florida State to beat Texas? Absolutely not. This whole thing, it's always been this way a little bit, but this further proves that this whole thing is just a popularity contest. They keep talking about how this was a weird year and something that never has happened before is going to have to happen this year. And I get that. It's a lot of good teams this year. There's a lot of teams with an argument for the number 4 spot. I'm not saying that Alabama doesn't have an argument for the number 4 spot. I'm not saying that. But Florida State does too. The tiebreaker should be strength of record, which Florida State has the advantage, and undefeated. Florida State has the advantage. Alabama's a 1-loss team. Good win, good team, absolutely a top 6 team. Should they have gotten to the playoffs over Florida State? Absolutely not. It makes no sense to play the games at this point if you're just going to predetermine who you think should get in. They've been saying this for weeks. Alabama jumps from 8 to 4. Washington, Michigan, Florida State got wins. Texas did too. Why does Alabama jump Florida State here? It makes absolutely no sense to me. I'd make the argument Florida State should be 3. Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Texas. I think Texas should get in. I'll say that. They got the head-to-head against Alabama. They've come on really late. That's still not a great loss to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's not all that great. With the wash at quarterback right now for Florida State, I understand some question. I'm not saying that. But are we definitively not a top 4 team just because of that? I mean, what have we really seen? What data has been there to support the claim that we're not a top 4 team? That we played our 3rd-string quarterback and still won by 10 points? Tate Rodemaker has 1 game of sample size. Really 2, but we're only going to count the Florida game. Even though Tate Rodemaker is responsible for most of the touchdowns against North Alabama, that's still a potent offensive performance there. So I can see Texas, who came on hot really late, getting in over us. But there's no reason 2 1-loss teams should be ahead. They did this strictly to keep the SEC in the playoffs, for ratings, for money, whatever you want to call it. The ACC looked better against the SEC this year. Florida State has been 4-0 in the last 4 matchups against the SEC. This defense gives you a chance against anybody. Michigan, Washington, Alabama, Texas, Georgia. Our defense gives you a chance. If we get the offense figured out, having a month off to get healthy would help that. I don't buy that we could not absolutely wreak havoc in the playoffs. I just still think, call it sunshine pump and call it whatever. Give Mike Norvell a month to play an offense around Tate Rodemaker. Get the offensive line healthy. Bless Harris, Robert Scott back. Tell me we're not a top 4 team. Florida State deserved better. College football deserved better. The fans deserve better. The system has lost credibility. There's no reason this should have went down like this. Florida State deserved a spot, period. Otherwise, why play the games? What else do you have to do? You go 13-0. You're the only team that beat Clemson at Clemson. You beat ranked Duke. You beat top 15 Louisville. You beat top 5 at the time LSU. By a lot, by the way. Blew LSU out. The Heisman, potentially the Heisman winner. You shut him down. You go 13-0. You win the conference championship. What else does Florida State have to do? If we're going to talk about that close win against Boston College, why are we not talking about the fact that Alabama lost at home by 10, by the way, and then barely beat USF and needed, again, a prayer to beat Auburn? That was recent, too. That Auburn game was last week. That wasn't back in September. That was last week. When they say that we're looking at the last couple weeks, what they really mean is they're looking at yesterday. And I get it. Alabama has the better win yesterday. Florida State has the better strength of record. Florida State is the most deserving. Florida State is undefeated. I mean, it's really not that hard. It's a simple thing if you're looking at all the details. The fact that the committee tries to make an assumption or a judgment on how much losing Jordan Travis should hurt us is a problem. Because based on what? Not last night because that wasn't Tate Rodmaker. That wasn't our new starting quarterback. That was our third stringer because the other one had a concussion. The Florida game, that wasn't a bad game. 24 points against a rival on the road in the weather for your first real career start. Not a bad performance. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying Florida State would win the national championship. They should have been given a shot. They deserved a spot in the playoffs. They earned it. They worked for it. They won the games. They did what was necessary. They did everything you could have asked them to do. And they got left out because of a popularity contest. This was purely a money move. This was purely to try to hold up the SEC. This is, again, I'll say it over and over. I'm kind of ranting at this point, but a disgrace. This team has found a way to win games every time, and they said last night on national television that's what championship teams do. Washington got credit the other night. It hasn't always been dominant, but championship teams find a way to win. Florida State has done that. Florida State has checked every single box. No, it hasn't always been dominant. They found a way to win. It's not ideal to be in Charlotte for a conference championship game against a top 15 Louisville team and be down to your third string quarterback. Still found a way to win. Cover the spread. 1 by 2 scores. If we're getting judged based on just how our quarterback position looks, that's not the sport. That's not what this is supposed to be about. For one, it's a team sport. Yes, quarterback is the most important position. I'm not saying it's not. And we're absolutely a better team with Jordan Travis. But this team proved that no matter what happens, they can find a way to win. Whether it's on the backs of the defense, the offense, special teams, whatever. Quarterback, receiver, running back, defense. They've shown that they can find a way to win in any situation. Why does that not get credit to the playoffs? What makes them think we couldn't find a way to win against Washington or Michigan? Because I promise you we could. Washington hasn't played a defense like ours. They're in the Pac-12. They're a good team. I'm not saying they're not. Michael Penix, Roman Dunze, very good players. Absolutely deserve to be in the top 4. They haven't played a defense like ours. Don't tell me they have. Don't tell me that wouldn't be a shock to them to face us in probably New Orleans or something like that. Don't tell me that Florida State would not have a shot there. They absolutely would. Don't tell me. I mean, Michigan can't run the ball 40 times against us. That's just not how that would work. They would need to throw the ball, and I'm not sure they could do it on this defense. I trust that Florida State, if it really came down to it, on defense could limit teams to enough points that the offense could do just enough to win the game. If not better. Again, we still don't know. We don't know what Tate could look like in a month with a game plan around him, really. A healthy team, a healthy offensive line. We don't know what that would look like. Neither does the committee. So the fact that this was made in a haste judgment decision is ridiculous. The fact that the wash was that 2 one-loss teams get in ahead of us is insanity. Florida State got robbed. The players got robbed. Mike Norvell got robbed. The fans got robbed. Even if you're not a Florida State fan, you got robbed. Because what else you got to do? How many undefeated teams can you leave out? I mean, seriously. I get James Madison, Liberty, those kind of teams. Like undefeated teams that don't play nobody, fine. Florida State is 3-0 against top 25 teams. Beat 2 SEC teams this year. It's just how many other teams could be in that scenario and do you leave out? I'll say it again. Florida State got left out because of the SEC bias. It's pure SEC bias. I'm not saying Alabama's not a good team. Again, I'm not taking anything away from what they've done this year. But what they've done this year is lose a game. Florida State has not. We let TCU into the playoffs last year. They got to the national championship with Georgia, lost by 100 points. Florida State would not do that. Florida State does not have that kind of loss in them. Why do we have this precedent of undefeated Power 5 champions getting in? Why do we have years where we've let TCUs and Cincinnati's get in just to leave Florida State out? It makes zero sense. This was truly a sad day for the sport here. This proves a few things, actually. This proves that the committee is completely biased. This proves that Florida State has to get out of the ACC. This proves that in a lot of cases, the games in the regular season that get played have no bearing. They do not matter. Kirk Herbstreit tweeted out, just win the games, play the games. We'll see who's where in December. Florida State's ranked in the top 4. Undefeated, 13-0 conference champs. That's where we were in December. We get left out? It's ridiculous. There's no argument. There's arguments for other teams to make that top 4 spot. I'm not saying there's not. The tiebreaker, Florida State has an argument too. The tiebreaker for those arguments should be who's undefeated. Don't tell me Alabama has more heart than us. Don't tell me Alabama has better defense. Don't tell me, I don't want to hear about SEC defense. Georgia got whipped on defense yesterday. There's there's just no way Florida State shouldn't be in. You can make an argument that they would lose in the playoffs. Fine. Well, we can entertain that. But that's why the game should get played. I think Florida State could beat Washington and Michigan. I think Florida State could beat Texas. Would they? Would they on any given day? I don't know. Could they? Absolutely. That's why you go 13-0, you win the games, you get a shot. The fact that we voted this top four based on a hypothetical on what would be the best matchup, which is what happened, is sick. You go 13-0. You play the regular season to get a shot. You get a shot to the playoffs. You play the games to see who's the best team. They prove that none of that matters anymore. You can have a loss. It doesn't matter. Florida State did everything right. Wasn't always pretty, no, but other teams are getting commended for that. Michigan, Washington, they're getting points. They're getting credit for, hey, it's not always dominant, but they find a way to get it done. That's what championships teams do. That's what Florida State has done all year. That's what Florida State did last night. Down to their third string quarterback. Find me another team that could go 13-0 without their starting quarterback. Granted, he played 11, almost 11 of those games. Find me a team that could then go on the road against a rival and win like that. Find me a team that could go win a conference championship like that. It won't happen. Florida State is a very complete team, and that holds up. Yes, the offense is lacking a little bit, but it's made up elsewhere. The bottom line is Florida State went 13-0, Power 5 conference champ, 3-0 against top 25 teams. The most wins against bowl-eligible teams out of anybody in the country. The fact is Florida State should have been in. Florida State should have got a shot. You play the games. That's what this is. This is like a sport where you play football games. You play football games for a reason. Florida State didn't get a chance now because of a hypothetical, because of bias, because of a popularity contest. And it's ridiculous. Again, I've said it 100 times. I'll say it a few more before the day is over. A disgrace to the sport. Heartbroken for myself, for fans, for the team, for the coaches, for college football fans in general. We all deserved better. This was a complete shit show. Further proving that the games don't matter. That we're gonna hold bias above everything else. That's what matters. I guarantee you, they said that they went over the results a half a dozen times or whatever. No, they went over it once. He said Alabama, Florida State. Who's in the SEC? Let's put them in. That's it. That's how that went. Period. You can't convince me otherwise, and you can't convince me that Florida State shouldn't have got a shot. Just unfortunate thing for Florida State here, and I really can't believe it happened. I'm at a loss for words. I said it hours ago. Like, there's no way Florida State can get left out here. When I saw they put Texas in, I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, Texas above us, whatever. There's no way 2 one-loss teams get in ahead of us, but that's what happened, I guess. It can't do nothing about it now, but it's ridiculous, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows that that's ridiculous. Any other team that was undefeated, again, and especially in the SEC, got a shot, period. The fact this worked out like this just proves that there's a huge flaw in the system. I guess it's better that we're going to go to a 12-team playoff next year, but it'll probably be more of the same. Anyways, sounds like we're getting Orange Bowl bid, Georgia, Ohio State, some teams that are getting tossed around. Probably Georgia. Should be a good game. I'm not disappointed in a good game, but it's just heartbreaking that Florida State didn't get a chance to show what they're capable of and play the games. Lost in the popularity contest, and that's what college football is now, I guess. But anyway, I just wanted to get on here and kind of rant, get some stuff off my chest. I'm sure you guys are all pretty upset too. And let me know what you think down in the comments below. Should Florida State have got in? If so, tell me why. And feel free to lay into Alabama or the committee, whoever else you want to. Let me know in the comments. And still always go Noles. Still a magical season. It just sucks it had to end like this for no reason. But can't take away 13-0, and the team still overperformed, and really it was still truly a magical season. And I don't mean to sound like it was all for nothing now or nothing like that, but because this was a huge season for us, 13-0, still a chance to go 14-0. Huge for recruiting, huge for next season, and still a very, very good season all the way around. It just sucks that we got booted for absolutely no reason. But either way, hope you guys enjoy your Sunday. As always, go Noles. Like, subscribe. We're so close to 100 subscribers, and I think Florida State getting left out. help me cope with the sad feels. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let's push the channel over 100, and we'll see you guys soon with some portal updates, some recruiting stuff, and I guess once we figure out who we're playing in the bowl game, there'll be some stuff on that as well. But as always, like, subscribe. Let's talk Noles.